Hello everyone, my name is Jeff MacArthur, I run this channel, and it's time for another update video. I don't typically like doing these things, and I don't think people usually like watching them, but there's something I kind of need to tell you about with some of these upcoming videos, and actually, strangely enough, these update videos typically get more viewers than the rest of them, which isn't saying a huge amount, but you know, there you go. Anyway, as you might see behind me, there's some Star Wars stuff. That's because RPG Storytime Star Wars is finally coming out. For those of you who don't know what that's all about, RPG Storytime is essentially where I take stories that were generated from role-playing games, and I turn them into these videos with like narration and sound effects and music and all that sort of thing that sort of just tells this story. And I started this Star Wars one a bunch of years ago, actually more like 3 years ago, something like that. And the intention was to have 6 episodes every year, or webisodes as I call them on the thing, to kind of separate them from the Star Wars episodes, if you will. Anyway, so the intention was to have 6 of them every year, but the story started getting really complicated, and I really started realizing, just having 6 episodes per year was going to get confusing, because, for one thing, you don't even remember what happened the year before when it's only 6 20-minute episodes or whatever. Also, it's getting complicated in that Star Wars itself has all kinds of, it has a lot of potential in that, it's an entire galaxy, it's this whole war, you can have all these different things, and I kind of took advantage of that, and actually I ended up kind of overdoing it, because there's the original main story, main characters who kind of went through this area, they freed a bunch of people, and then the intention as a game master was for them to sort of stay in that area and build up that rebel cell. But they moved on, and in my mind I'm like, well, they left these people behind. We really should do some stories with them. Well, Fantasy Flight had all these other games, such as X-Wing, Legion. Well, Legion came out while we were doing it, but whatever. Imperial Assault, those types of things. And so I really kind of decided I wanted to do some other stories with those other characters, utilizing those games. And so we continued on the role-playing game with the regular group, and then with other people we created, some other games with those other things. And like I say, the role-playing game itself had 3 different, there were basically 3 different role-playing games, one for like the rogues, one for the rebels, and one for like force wielders. So anyway, it started to build and build and build, and then in the new sector where the other characters went, they built up so many characters, and it's a long story as to how that all happened, but basically they ended up splitting up into a couple groups, and so that ended up, splitting into 2 different gaming groups, and then another one split from there, and it just kept growing and growing and growing with all different characters and all different games, etc., etc. Basically, I overdid it. That's really what it comes down to, and so it did create, in my opinion, this incredible story. Basically, in a way, what I always wanted to see from Star Wars. When I was a little kid, I was actually disappointed by Empire Strikes Back, and not just because I was a little kid and I didn't quite get Empire yet. I now, see it as like the most well-made of all Star Wars movies. But what disappointed me was that the idea of there being an entire galactic war really implies so many places and so many things and so many different stories you could do. I had kind of hoped that they were going to branch out, and instead they just sort of stuck with these characters. And that's fine, it is it's a great story and everything, but I always wanted to see Star Wars expand into all kinds of things, which is why I just so much love the Clone Wars and Rogue One, because those really go into the other areas, that would happen. And that's kind of what ended up happening with this. Instead of just being a single role-playing game about a certain group of people, it's really the story of all the people in these 2 different sectors and the entire war that happens there, and these other minor wars that take place during there. So that leads to why I'm doing this video. Because if you were just to watch it, like if you're used to Critical Role or something like that, you're used to just watching one group of videos about one group of characters going from point A to point B to point C, blah, blah, blah. In this particular case, you're going to see these characters going to a certain degree, and then it's going to branch off to some other characters. And then you're going to follow them for a little bit, then it's going to branch off to some others. You're going to follow them, then you're going to go back to the A-Team, and you're going to follow them for a little bit, then you're going to go to some other people, and it just keeps sort of jumping around. One way to think of it while watching this is to think of it like the Clone Wars. Like the Clone Wars would have 6 episodes on a certain person or a certain group of people, then there'd be 5 episodes about different people, then you'd have 8 episodes about some others, and it kind of went around and you saw all the different characters, and it created a much bigger story. Same with like Game of Thrones or something like that. So watch it with that kind of in mind. But there were some times when it gets really distracted, when it goes off to some people who really aren't even with the rebellion, or even the characters who are in the rebellion. It kind of goes into a battle that takes place. It doesn't directly affect everything. It does roundaboutly affect everything. It like affects the map and all that sort of thing, but it is sort of obscure. It's kind of to the side, and some people watching might be kind of like, well, why is that relevant to the the entire thing? So I decided to label everything. I decided to label it, if it's the main story, it's RPG story time, this, or Star Wars this. It'll be RPG Storytime or webisode, whatever. It'll be the numbered things, just like you see with the main Star Wars storyline. There's episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the main original core storyline, and everything else is kind of, the periphery around it. For this, it's the same type of thing. It's going to be, the webisode numbers, even though it's jumping around to different characters. Anything with the webisode number is the main storyline. Those things that are on the periphery will be called Star Wars stories, whatever. Yeah, a lot of them, like the first ones you're going to see, are War of the Houses, which the idea is the sector that they're in have all of these separate houses, which are like small empires or whatever, and they end up going to war. And so you wind up with this storyline of them fighting each other. I could have just simply showed that the map changed or whatever, but there are some people who might be interested in that, especially because of the fact that, these are game videos, and we played out their war using Armada. So it's basically a bunch of Armada battle reports that are connected to this. So if you just want to watch Armada battle reports, you can watch them for that. If you want to see how it affects the story, watch it in order. But anyway, it's going to be the entire story, in order. Like I say, webisode numbers will be the main storyline. Star Wars stories are the periphery storylines. If you want to watch all of them, just go straight through. If you just want the main story, just watch the webisodes. And then afterwards, I'll put playlists of the various characters. Before that, there's going to be a zombie story, Project Zomboid. So watch that. There's going to be like 3 episodes. It's pretty fun. And then it's going to be Star Wars RPG Storytime, or RPG Storytime Star Wars. I hope you all enjoy it. It's been a hell of a ride. It's a huge, epic type of thing. It's going to take a long time. But anyway, hope you like it. Happy gaming, everybody, and may the Force be with you.